Hola! If you're watching this video, it is because you were not in class when we either did our Preterite versus Imperfect projects or you missed my explanation. First, I'm sorry about the bad quality of this video, so just bear with me. Alright, this video is explaining the Preterite versus Imperfect poster. Now remember, Preterite versus Imperfect, both of those tenses are two different ways to speak in past tense. Okay? You have these notes. They have the rules for when we use preterite and the rules for when we use the imperfect. Now, the general rule for when we use preterite is things that happen once in the past. So, for instance, I was born in 1993. Yo nací en 1993. The imperfect general rule is things that happen more than once. So, I always played with my friends when I was little. Yo siempre jugaba con mis amigos cuando yo era joven. That's the general rules, but you have the specific rules for when to tell the difference. Now, you should have in front of you a rubric for the poster presentation. Okay? I'm going to read through it, so follow along with me. You are the teacher, and it is your job to create a poster that is easy to understand and that describes the differences between preterite and imperfect tense in Spanish. You will create a poster that explains these differences with examples for each rule. Now, more or less, you're creating your own version of this poster. You can see for each rule that I give, I have an example underneath. Now, this lists everything that you need to include in your poster to get full points. First one you need to include the 5 rules for when to use preterite tense. Easy 10 points. Then you need to include an example sentence for each rule in Spanish. Okay, so on my poster or on my notes, the sentences are in English because that was to help you understand the rule. But you are going to make your sentences be in Spanish. So for instance, the first rule is an event that happened once and is finished. You need to think of a sentence that describes an event that happened once and is finished. You also have in front of you a sheet which has many verbs you can use to make up your sentences. So for instance, I'm going to choose empezar, which means to begin. And the beginning of an event is an example for preterite. It's the second rule, the beginning of an event. So I could say, I began school. Yo empecé la escuela. You have these verbs to choose from, and on the back of your notes, remember, on the back of the rules, you also have the endings of the verbs. Remember, you take off the last 2 letters, and then you put on the correct ending. So, you should have the rolled up poster paper that I sent home. You have the rubric for what you need to include. After the 5 preterite rules with 5 examples, you need to include the 8 rules for imperfect with 8 imperfect examples. Again, you have the verbs to make the sentences, and you have the endings to conjugate the verbs. The last 10 points is you need to make the poster neat, artistic, and creative in some way. Okay. Just to clarify, you can pretty much copy the rules because the rules can be in English. It's the sentences, the example sentences that need to be in Spanish. If you have any questions, go ahead and email me at mgray18@cps.edu. That's mgray18@cps.edu. Good luck on the poster!